Hey YouTube. So today I wanted to talk about the unexpected ways that my marriage and divorce impacted me on a deeper personal level. I wanted to talk about the unexpected ways because I feel that there are obvious and I guess expected ways that a marriage and divorce impacts someone on that level. Um, I mean, when you devote years into, for me, 7 or 8 years of my life into a relationship and then it falls apart at the end, there are, I think, obvious repercussions that come along with that. But then on the flip side, the freedom that comes along with it as well, right? And having to learn how to date again, having to, mm, I mean, just in general, maybe talk to girls again, flirt with girls, having to undo habits that I realized that weren't necessarily a part of me, but actually was part of just growing together in the relationship that I need to undo, things like that. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think there are three really unexpected ways for me that has been impacting me. And so one of them is that I became much more in touch with my emotions. And I think so much so that I think if I were to give like a rating between 1 to 10, I think I'm at maybe a 6 right now. I say 6 because I feel that my intuition tells me that I'm on the right track and I'm doing well, but I think there's much more room for me to grow in this aspect. So if I'm a 6 right now, I think the way I was for the first 35 years of my life was a 1. And and I think it was a 1 because I think in the past I've I mean, now looking at it, I didn't know I was doing this at the time. So all this was happening subconsciously, but now looking at it, I think I have sort of looked down on emotions in general because I, so for the first 35 years of my life, I felt that letting emotions impact any situation was a form of, or a sign of weakness, or some form of weakness. I thought that being objective and rational in every situation was the optimal way to handle situations, right? So I feel that for me, whenever I felt emotions, I almost rejected them or I had a negative reaction to it. And so I think it's almost like my subconscious trained myself to not, to become less and less in tune with my emotions. And I think so, in a way, maybe the older I got, the less in tune with my emotions I was getting. But then until I think the marriage and the divorce really changed me in that way, and the turning point really was the pain that I had to go through in overcoming and yeah, I mean overcoming the divorce, I guess. And when I felt that kind of pain, and also just the lessons that I've learned in my marriage, those together help me see the value in emotions and how important and valid they are. And not just important and valid, but also in some ways they are just as real as what I can rationally explain, or my rational thoughts. And so it's almost like now I value my emotions or just anyone's emotions as much as the rationale or my own rationale, which is actually, wow, it's so crazy for me to say this now. I would have never said anything like this even a few years ago. So um, but yeah, I mean, this is how much I've grown in that aspect. And not just being more in touch with my emotions, but, and maybe this is a part of it, but a side effect of this was that I'm now more accepting of my own emotions in general. So when I feel my emotions, I almost, I'm welcoming it rather than rejecting it. But not only am I welcoming it, but I'm sort of, mm, not excited, but I feel like inside I'm eager to let myself feel whatever that's happening more and more. And so I don't know, it's been really nice, and I think it's been helping me. I mean, it's definitely been helping me have deeper connections with friends so far. And that's been such an incredible positive, it's had such a positive impact in my life, and it's something that I never realized that I didn't have before, which is, oh my god, it sounds so ridiculous now, but yeah, I mean, that's honestly, that's the truth. And so I think I lived my whole life almost without having those kinds of deeper connections with people in general, and even in my relationships, it's sad to say, I almost kind of feel like even in my marriage, I didn't have the type of emotional connection that I have the potential to have now, even though it was, um, the divorce only happened last year, and so it's just, yeah, I mean, life is changing me pretty quickly, and in this way, it's such a positive impact in my life. The next one though is not as positive, which is and maybe this is just a me thing, and just how my marriage and divorce ended up happening, but I realized that I've become extremely mentally weak. And what I mean by that is that I so what I've learned recently from learning more about this side effect that I've had, which is the brain is designed to survive, not thrive. So the brain is always trying to get you to be more lazy and be to go away from pain, go away from inconvenience. Go. It's not. It doesn't want to thrive, right? It doesn't want to be better. It just wants to survive essentially. And so I think for a large chunk of my marriage, or during my marriage, I think I've succumbed into this, into, I guess, letting my brain's will to survive. I've been letting that win, if that makes sense. And that has become such a big habit now that I'm now having to actively work against that to overcome that. And and in a way, it's almost like, I think in my late teens and early 20s, I've, through a lot of the experiences that I've had and discipline and things like that, that it had become a habit to overcome these aspects about my brain. But then I think in the marriage somehow, all of that sort of unwinded itself, and I just succumbed to what the brain kept wanting me to do, which is survive. And it's sad because I think during the relationship, I started to blame my partner for me losing the will to want to grow and be better, and things like that. And um, because at the time, the way it felt was, well, until I met her, I was so ambitious, I was so driven, and I was so disciplined and things like that, right? And then after the marriage, or during the marriage, there were a lot of struggles that we went through, and throughout those struggles, I became less ambitious, less driven, less disciplined, and I sort of just started becoming sort of like a zombie almost. And so I think at the time I blamed her, but then after the divorce, I realized it wasn't her. It was actually me just letting my brain win that whole time and undo all the habits, the good habits that I built throughout my whole life. And so now I'm trying to undo what I undo the undoing, from the marriage, and go back to how I was in my 20s. And so that's been a obviously a negative impact on my life, but I think it's interesting that this is happening. And I think it's something that I'm glad I know now, so that in the future, that whenever things like this happen, is that I can be more aware of it instead of just flatly blaming my partner for it. The third one is that I no longer feel a sense of longing to find love. And so I think although we ended up getting divorced, I do feel like I, my partner and I had experienced a type of love that is not common. I mean, maybe everyone says this in relationships, but I feel like what we had was really rare, and and this is sort of what it feels like. So, the way I'll describe it is now I feel like I look around. Imagine everyone is in a cafeteria, and everyone's hungry for love. So they're starving for love, right? So they're looking, their eyes are all crazy, and they're just trying to find love wherever they can. And when they find it, they're like eating. But for me, I feel relaxed and I feel calm, and I'm looking around. And I'm like, I'm not in a rush. I'm not desperate. I'm not, that's how I feel now. Um, and I don't know if this is necessarily a good or a bad thing, but I I don't know. I think the jury's still out on how this will impact me long term in my life, but I do feel like I have experienced something, or I have experienced love already. Not that I have experienced love already, because I mean, maybe I'll talk about my view on love in a different video, but because there are a lot more thoughts that I could go into. But I do feel like I've experienced a rare type of love with someone already, and it's almost like, who am I to expect to find that again? And even if I don't, it's okay. And so a combination of those things, it makes me sort of kind of have like a more of a relaxed, calmer approach on romance in general, maybe. It's almost like if it comes, it comes. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And either way, it's okay. And either way, I feel blessed that I was able to experience it at least once, sort of. Yeah. Um, hmm. Yeah. I mean, I guess we'll see. Maybe I'll do a future video on how this one, especially, is impacting me long term. But right now, I feel this feels like a positive thing in my life. I think I yeah, because I feel, in a way, I feel fulfilled, even though I feel fulfilled in almost from a mm, not from a romantic perspective, but okay. Here's how I'll describe it. So before I was married, the the way I was unfulfilled because I didn't find a partner yet, right? I don't feel that type of unfulfilled feeling anymore. Even though I no longer have a partner, if that makes sense. Yeah, and so I think in that way, I think it'll be a positive impact in my life, but I imagine that this could impact any future relationship that I have. I don't know, we'll see. I think the jury's still out. But anyway, yeah, that could be a future video. But okay, so here's the question that I'm answering today, which is, in what ways might you be a difficult person to work with or for? Okay, so I guess I can answer in two parts. So how might I be a difficult person to work with? Um, okay, this is kind of hard because now I value emotions so much more now that, I mean, in the past, here's how I would answer it, which is, so one, if I'm your coworker, I'm trying so hard to make sure that myself and my coworkers are working towards a common goal, which is for the company. And so or actually, if the company is big enough, then maybe it's just for our team. So we want our team to do well and our team to be successful, and that should be the common goal. And I'd want and expect all my coworkers to buy into that goal, so we can all work together. We're not trying to hurt each other. We're trying to in fact we're on the same team, so we're helping each other become better, right? And and then also on the flip, not on the flip side, but also I expect emotions to be separate from what is objectively best in those situations, in work situations. So I think in those ways my standards were really high for that. And so I just didn't have much patience for if people got emotional or let themselves get emotional, and emotions got in the way of what I would consider good decision making in those work situations. And so I think in those ways I'm not as tolerant and understanding and as patient maybe as other coworkers might be. Yeah, I think that would be it. Um, Now, in what ways might I be a difficult person to work for? Hmm. I think there is. It's kind of similar. So I think one, my standards would be really high in terms of the quality of work and the amount of work that I expect to be produced, um, and also the effort that goes into it. I think depending on the type of job, depending on the role, I think I might value the effort more than the actual results, and the quality and the production of the work. So it might fluctuate depending on the role, but I think overall I would probably be more demanding than your average boss, and I also I would try my best again, and this is similar to being a coworker, but I would try my best to get everyone on the same page with the goals and the mission that we have as a company, and for all my employees to buy into those goals and that mission, and then while I am trying my best for everyone to buy in, but I would also at the same time expect everyone to buy in. And if you don't, and if I see that you're making decisions that goes against those goals, then I would not be tolerant, or I wouldn't be as tolerant or accepting and understanding of those situations as your average boss, maybe. Um, yeah, I think that would be why it would make me difficult. And also, but what I want to say about that is I think now that I value emotion so much more, I am curious to find out how that would impact me as a coworker or as a boss, um, and so I guess the jury's still out on that as well. Um, I think if I were to speak just theoretically right now, I think that I would be much more understanding and empathetic as a boss and as a coworker now, um, and I think because of that, I would still try my best to get people to buy into the goals and the mission of either the company or the team, and but I wouldn't expect it as much because I understand that there's a lot of factors at play. Not everyone can just separate emotions with their brain like I can, and um, nor maybe now the way I value emotions, maybe now they don't they necessarily like I maybe they don't necessarily should, or they don't necessarily should maybe they shouldn't necessarily be separating emotions and their brain in their workspace. Maybe it's on the coworkers and myself to be understanding and sort of manage those things with each other so that we could come to an agreement on the common goal, which is for the company or the team. And so I feel like I have a complete different perspective on maybe how the workplace or the team should operate, and I think that will be a huge boon to myself as a boss or as a coworker, that I have become more in touch with my emotions and have started valuing emotions more in general. So yeah, I mean, again, this is all theoretical right now because I haven't been a coworker or been a boss since I have become more in touch with my emotions. But really excited to find out, and maybe I'll do a future video on that if I get to that point and I actually find out. Anyway, so that was this video. Thank you guys, and until next time.